especially against women, have to stop. So this certainly is something that what more can you say? And then when you add on to that, that there was a blanket denial on Combs' part
Yeah.
when the lawsuit first came out, and now he's apologizing because the video has been revealed, I think many people would say this is something that is very disingenuous.
Yeah, denied it when other women came forward as well. But when the lawsuit, I mean, he settled that lawsuit in the day, and now obviously I think we all know why that was the case. Here he is, Sean Combs, though, talking about the fact I mentioned earlier, said it's the darkest time in his life. That, he went to therapy and rehab and that kind of thing. Let's listen.
And I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace.
I guess Dr. Jeffy's trying to say, I'm a different person now than I was then. This was years ago, but you say?
Well, after something so horrific, so violent, and allegedly the years of violence against other people, what can one say other than, well, good for you that you want redemption, good for you that you're getting therapy. These are the things that I would recommend. But I think people are going to take a very long time to believe that he's genuine in doing this. And it takes a long, long, long road to recovery after being involved in such heinous acts.
Is it possible to recover from something like that?
Well, we also have to think about the victims here
Sure.
too, right? And the alleged victims. I think it's very difficult for people to recover from these things. They eventually do. I'd be much more concerned about the victims first. As for him, if that is a singular case, if I were working with a patient who had done some of the things that he's done,
right.
Certainly I would say that would take years of therapy, years of substance abuse treatment in order to come back from that. But can one recover? Yes, of course they can, but it does take years of work. And we don't really know what other psychological demons, what other issues are going on with this particular individual.
What about, he has kids himself, I mean, young kids to those, I think, in their 20s. What about, they probably thought of their dad one way, and now, boy, imagine them seeing this. What would you say?
Well, I would say that these are the other victims of these sorts of alleged actions, right? That the family always suffers. But he's even had one son, I believe, who allegedly was involved in a physical or sexual assault. And that has come to light. Again, an allegation which he denies. But when you put all of these things together, Connell, it just does not look good. He may recover emotionally, but will his reputation ever recover? I just
probably not.
Don't.
His career, we talked to Dominic Patton from Deadline about that last hour. Let me play for you what he had to say about whether, his career is over. Watch.
From a career point of view, again, I hate to repeat myself, there's always someone somewhere who'll pay $3 million for Diddy to show up at their wedding or something like that. But in terms of mainstream American success, done and dusted.
That makes sense to you, Dr. Jeff, done and dusted?
I think it's going to be very difficult for him to come back, especially after apologizing. And I guess that is an admittance that he's admitting that he did physically abuse this woman, who also alleges that he had raped her in her home, forced her to have sex with other people. I just think it's going to be a long, long road for him to recover his reputation. But again, my concern is really for the alleged victims of this and the actual victims of this.
Of course.
This is all proven.
Some vindication, I guess, for Cassie and some other people that have come forward as well in a big way, right? I don't know how
absolutely, because too often we don't believe the women who have been victims of these things. So, obviously she's telling the truth about this, and I think we need to give more credence and support to people who are victims of physical and sexual abuse. Instead of doubting them, listen to them and give them the help that they need.
Final point here, LA Times, you see this commentary for black women, the world of hip hop, always been a minefield of misogyny. Do you agree with that, number one? Do you think things are changing? Have they improved at all? What would you say?
I think it's been a world of misogyny when it comes to powerful people, powerful men, no matter what culture, no matter what race. This is something that power and the money corrupts people. And it's, again, the victims of this are left to have to try to recover for years. Emotional pain that is beyond words.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.